Konnichiwa Mina, and here is week 4 of the 2018 DCFL season. As we take a look at the stand-ins after last week, right now, the Phoenix Devils and the Indianapolis Rapid Stallions are the only teams undefeated at 3-0, and right behind them is the Chicago Staleys and the New York Gangsters as the teams in the playoff race, with the Seattle Tenyo being the team left out in that 2-1 stretch. And then, of course, it's the Jacksonville Scouts, Baltimore Charms, Charlotte Bobcats after that, with the Pittsburgh Power and Oakland Pillagers bottoming out at 0-3 right now. So 2 winless teams, 2 undefeated teams remaining. And then we take a look at the schedule for week 4 as we get things started with a game that everyone's keeping their eyes on apparently on the server, as the Phoenix Devils visit the Baltimore Charm. That's going to be an all-Jake showdown as the Charlotte Bobcats visit the Pittsburgh Power. And then it's the Chicago Staleys visiting the Seattle Tenyo, which is going to be an important game for playoff scenes right then and there. And it'll be probably an offensive shootout as the Jacksonville Scouts visit the Indianapolis Rapid Stallions. And then we finished off with the Oakland Pillagers visiting the New York Gangsters. So we get the week started with a pretty important one, especially for me, as my Baltimore Charm hosts the undefeated Phoenix Devils, as they still somehow remain undefeated despite being the worst team overall-wise, as my Charm beat the shit out of Pittsburgh last week, hoping to get back to 500, as it's not going to be easy with the Devils coming into town. But we somehow did it, as the Charm win 38-35 in one of the craziest games so far this season. Oh my god, where to begin? The Devils went up 14-0. Then my Charm scored 17 unanswered points. And then, holy crap, 42 points were scored in the fourth quarter alone, with us taking a 3-point lead with just a few minutes remaining. The Devils got the ball back deep in their territory, and they threw a pick 6 to give us a 10-point lead. The Devils, with just a minute remaining, got the touchdown to cut it within 3, but they couldn't recover the onside kick, and we were able to run the clock out. So, wow, what a big win that was for me, as now 2-2. Getting right back into the mix of the playoff picture. And with this loss, not only did the Rapid Stallions now lead the playoff bracket, they are the only undefeated team right now, and we'll see what happens later on when they play Jacksonville. And holy crap, each team had over 450 yards offensively. Damn. And after that, we go up to Pittsburgh for our all matchup showdown with Jake's team, as the Charlotte Bobcats visit the Pittsburgh Power. Charlotte surprised everyone by upsetting New York last week, as Pittsburgh got spanked and destroyed by my Baltimore Charm last week. Let's see if the Power can get their first win of the season, or will the Bobcats manage to get to 2-2 as well. But Pittsburgh would get the win 14-7, going 17 unanswered points until the fourth quarter, where the Bobcats tried to pull up a comeback, but they just couldn't do it, as it was an all-defensive effort as the Power had 3 sacks, a interception, and a fumble recovery too. They really clamped down hard on the Bobcats, and with that win, that gives them the tiebreaker when they tie for right now until they play later on this year. So nice to see Pittsburgh finally got their first win, as it's now the Oakland Pillagers, the only team without a win. And then we go out to Seattle for probably the biggest game of the week, as its playoff implications at the moment, as the Chicago Staleys visit the Seattle Tenyo, as both teams got destroyed and embarrassed last week when they were on the road and such, hoping to try to avoid 2-2, getting 3-1, and be deep in the playoff hunt at the moment as we get into the game itself. And the Seattle Tenyo would get the victory in a defensive effort, 16-13, as it was low scoring throughout the entire game until the fourth quarter, where 17 points were scored. Chicago actually got down the Seattle's red zone with just a few seconds remaining. They went for the field goal to tie it, and it was no good, sending them on a 2-game losing streak, as Seattle's recovered from their disastrous loss last week against Jacksonville, as they're 3-1 and right now in the playoff hunt, as Chicago right now not looking good, especially since you gotta watch out for the Scouts and the Gangsters still coming up. And then we get to probably the more exciting game of the week, as it's the Jacksonville Scouts visiting the Indianapolis Rapid Stallions, as Jacksonville, that destruction they gave Seattle last week, put them right back in playoff contention, as the Rapid Stallions are the only team undefeated right now and can keep the #1 seed throughout the playoffs right now if they win this week. And the Rabbit Stallions would get it 41-33 in a crazy offensive affair as this game went back and forth throughout the entire game. Jacksonville got over 500 yards of offense. The Rabbit Stallions got almost 475, and the Scouts were right at the goal line, needing a touchdown and a 2-point conversion to get it with just 2 seconds remaining, but they fell incomplete, and they couldn't get the comeback as the Rabbit Stallions now remain undefeated and the #1 seed in the playoff bracket as the Scouts, in a tough loss, fall backwards into the playoff bracket. And then we finish off the week with the final game as the lowly Oakland Pillagers, the last winless team, visits the New York Gangsters after their embarrassing loss last week to Charlotte. Charlotte. They have a shot now to get into the playoff bracket right now if they win this game. Of course, they don't want to lose again to Oakland. That would be quite embarrassing to give them their first win. And the Gangsters would still end up winning it 27-13 in a defensive struggle where they were just shutting down Oakland in the fourth quarter. After it was nearly close for the entire game, they forced 3 sacks, an interception, and 2 fumbles just in the fourth quarter alone. Unbelievable, as they managed to pull off a pretty convincing victory as they're in the playoff bracket right now, as Oakland still remains the only winless team remaining. So with that out of the way, week 4 is over as we now take a look at the standings now, with Indianapolis having the #1 seed and Phoenix #2, New York #3, and Seattle #4. With the Staleys having the tiebreaker over the Charm as they beat us in week 2. And the Scouts have the tiebreaker over both Pittsburgh and Charlotte. And of course, Pittsburgh has the tiebreaker over Charlotte, beating them today, as the lowly Pillagers remain last in the division. So right now, Phoenix has the #1 offense and New York has the #1 defense. I wonder how much that will change going into the next week. And then we finish off the video by looking at week 5 schedule as my Baltimore Charm visits Jake's Charlotte Bobcats. Hopefully we can win that one. And then the big one, as it's going to be Aaron's Indianapolis Rabbit Stallions visiting Chase Chicago Staleys. This is going to be pretty big for both of them to get in the playoff bracket. And then Anthony's New York Gangsters visiting Ahmad's Jacksonville Scouts. Offense versus defense, that'll be interesting. And then the 2 worst teams in the league record-wise, Jake's Pittsburgh Power visits Matthew's Oakland Pillagers. And then we finish off the week with a big showdown with a playoff implication on the line as Miami's Seattle Tenyo visit Matthew's Phoenix Devils. Oh boy, I can't wait for that one. So with that, week 4 is in the books. I cannot wait for week 5, so see you then.